Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Yep. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to RMIT Master Night and Business Talk, Build Your Personal Brand in the Workplace. So the Business Talk series is an initiative of RMIT postgraduate programs in Vietnam. It provides a platform for our academics and guest speakers to share with people in the community their expertise in important issues and hot topics in business and also in career development. So today's topic is brought forth from one of our new MBA courses, Personal Branding and Authentic Leadership. So the topic today is going to be how to build your personal brand, and this will be presented by Mr. Huynh, Head of People, Performance and Culture at KPMG, and also an alumni of the Executive MBA program at RMIT. He has more than 17 years of professional working experience with global consultancy firms, and he's currently the head of human resources at KPMG in the Asia Pacific region. So drawing on over 10 years of experience at one of the world's big four professional consultancy firms, Paul will share his expertise on the key ingredients in creating your own authentic brand and how you can strengthen and amplify your own voice. Joining this evening as well will be our two program managers from RMIT, Dr. John Wash, head of the MIB program, and Dr. Burkhard Schreck from the MBA program at RMIT. So to begin the evening, Dr. John Wash will say his welcome and present a short introduction of RMIT. Following that, the business talk by Paul Huynh will be half an hour with another 15 minutes for question and answer. During this entire session, you can type your questions in the question tab, not just for Paul, but also for our lecturers and staff, and they will be answered either on air or in the comments. So I hope you enjoy the section. And now I'd like to invite on air first Dr. John Wash, Senior Program Manager of the International Business Discipline at RMIT, to say his welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is John Walsh. As you say, I'm the Senior Program Manager for International Business and responsible for the Masters in International Business here at RMIT Vietnam. I'm based at the Hanoi campus and very pleased to be here with you today. So we have a short time for introduction, and we're going to show you a few slides to introduce the nature of our postgraduate courses. RMIT in Vietnam offers three principal postgraduate courses: the MBA, the Master of Business Administration; the MIB, the Master of International Business; and the MGT, the Master of Global Trade. Together, these complement our activities in our home campus in Melbourne, where we have more than 90 programs in 18 study areas. But the three that we do here in Vietnam are specially chosen for our Vietnamese audience and to help in promoting the social and economic development of Vietnam and other people who want to study here. So RMIT is originally an Australian university. We are proud to say that we're in the top 1% of the world's universities. We are number 39 in the world for the international profile of academic staff, and we have a 5-star ranking for our quality service and the consistency of our teaching and the excellence of our academic ability. We have a number of other criteria for which we think you would be interested in choosing our university. The intention of our postgraduate courses is not just to provide knowledge and understanding, but to help you become accustomed to some of the leading edge programs or business practices in the world. A postgraduate course offers three principal things for students. The first is, as I say, some knowledge, some understanding, some concepts that you can work with in the future. The second is it offers you networking, and it is in networking that we think we are particularly well blessed here in Vietnam, with strong connections with a number of leading industries and leading companies. The third thing we offer is the opportunity for students to sit back and reflect on their career and where they want to go, and have the opportunity to think to themselves, and in consultation with the faculty, with other students, where do I want to go in the future? What do I want to achieve? Right? What is it that I can do, and how am I going to reach that goal? One way of doing that is to seek out global experiences, and at RMIT we have the opportunity of partnering with hundreds of universities across the world. So we have not only our own campuses in Melbourne, Shanghai, Singapore, Barcelona, and in Vietnam, but we have partner opportunities for universities across Europe and across many other parts of the world. So those students who are interested in studying elsewhere to try to get a different perspective on the world, or business as it is practiced in other parts of the world, will find much that will benefit you here. We have, in addition to me, we have international experts. So Dr. Huynh is head of the Department of Management here and an expert in international business. Stephen Olsen is with the Heinrich Foundation and teaches as part of the Masters of Global Trade. Warwick Klein is the chairman and CEO of KPMG for Vietnam and Cambodia, and a leading business practitioner in the region. Dr. Burkhardt, you'll hear from a little later on, is not just an academic, but is a noted financial capitalist as well. And we have also Minh Tran, Regional Vice President of the Visa Corporation, a number of other people we are called upon to speak with we'll speak to our students, and we'll interact with them during the class time and during their interactive sessions outside of the classroom. We do try to offer a diverse community of students so that you have the opportunity to meet with people not just like yourself, but from a wide range of different nationalities and different other demographic characteristics, both in Vietnam and if you should choose to study overseas. We have a number of programs which will help you to connect with people in different countries according to your own interest and your own desires for personal self-enrichment. Our alumni take up a variety of different and in many cases prestigious forms. You can see here that we have vice presidents, regional vice presidents, managers, senior managers in companies from across Vietnam and in other parts of the country and other parts of the region. At the bottom right-hand corner, you can see Paul Huynh, who is going to be speaking to you today, and he is the head of People, Performance and Culture for the Asia Pacific region for KPMG, a company with which we have close ties here at RMIT Vietnam. In addition to private sector, we also like to keep in contact with public sector speakers, and through such means as our International Business Forum, which we hold on an annual basis, we invite leading government speakers and leading government advisors, and you'll see some of these on your screen at the moment. And we have, this will continue this year with events over the next couple of weeks, which we will bring public and private sector speakers to address the subject of the new normal in Vietnam, challenges and opportunities for firms relating to the EU Free Trade Agreement and the COVID-19 pandemic. We try to make a regular practice of dealing with industry, both as guest speakers and as people who can be part of our genuine work assessment assignments that are designed to be of practical value to real life industry partners. And here you can see some of the people that we've worked with. I will draw your attention on the bottom right hand side again, Andy Ho, who is Chief Investment Officer for Vina Capital, and he has volunteered to join a course that I'm going to be teaching this weekend at the Saigon South Campus on financial analytics and decision making, and we would look to welcome him to that course this weekend. Okay, that concludes what I want to say for this evening. Please feel free to send comments or questions to myself or to any of the excellent marketing team that we have here. I'll be back at the end for Q&A session with Dr. Burkhardt, but in the meantime now, I will pass you on to our marketing leader. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. John will come back in our Q&A session. So if you have any questions for him or for us, you can leave your comment in questions tab. And now for the most anticipated part of our event, Paul Huynh will present about how to build a personal brand in the workplace, a topic that I believe all of us working professionals would love to learn more about to develop our career at whichever career stage we might be in. As I shared, this is also a topic covered in one of the courses offered in our MBA program under the leadership minor, personal branding and authentic leadership. So today our special guest, Paul, will speak on what is personal branding, what are the key ingredients in creating your own voice, how can you strengthen and amplify your voice? So now we would like to invite on air Huynh.
Oh, hi everyone. Sorry, Fung, and thank you so much, John, for that great introduction. What an honor, first of all, for me to be on the webinar with you all this evening. And thank you so much for dedicating a part of your time to join me. It's quite an unusual and unprecedented time in the world right now. And you know, I'd hope to be able to do this session with you all face to face, but I am nonetheless really excited for today. But perhaps before we start the webinar, Fung, could we, it'd be great to hear from you all about how you're feeling. I'm feeling quite excited, but how about everyone else on today's webinar? We might put a quick poll up if that's okay.
Yeah, we have a poll going in the poll session. Like if you looked next to the questions tab, then yeah, we do have a question about how you're all feeling today.
All right. Okay, so I can see a lot of people starting to respond. Great to see so many of you just as excited as I am and happy. Yes, a couple of people hungry. I'm starting to get a bit hungry as well myself. And you know, thank you for a couple of you who have been really honest here to say that you're really nervous and probably nervous about you know, about the current environment that we're operating in, and that's I think that's a real you know, I think it's a real feeling that you know, I think is important to express. So thank you so much for being honest. What we might do is, yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's great to see all the responses come through. So my name's Paul, as Fung mentioned, and rather than do formal introductions, I thought I'd introduce myself through photos of my life. And you can see that starting from the top, I think some of you can already tell from my accent, but I am Vietnamese, but I grew up in Sydney, Australia. And hence why I talk a little bit funny. In the center there is really the people that are the center of my universe, my family, who are also based in Sydney. So you can see my three sisters and my parents there at the bottom. I am a big tennis fanatic and tennis freak. So if I'm not at work, sometimes you might catch me playing tennis in District 7. And then down at the bottom are a couple of my personal passions. I think like many of you, you probably enjoy traveling as well. Unfortunately, that's something that seems to be a bit of a you know, a bit of a distant memory at the moment for many of us. But when borders were open, it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And so I've had the opportunity, been really lucky to visit a couple of really cool places here. So you can see here at the bottom, there's me in Egypt. And then on the bottom right, that was during my time when I went to Israel. And then in the middle bottom, picture, I think another one of my passions, which I'm going to be talking about a bit later on, and that's you know, the focus around charity and giving back to the community. It's something that I'm personally really passionate about, and something at KPMG that we do quite a bit as well. So that is a little bit about me, and hopefully that tells you a little bit more about who I am. In terms of my professional career, I've been with KPMG now for about 11 years, so really a long time with the firm. And in terms of the Big Four, I've been within the Big Four now for about nearly 14 years. So most of my career I've been working in professional services, and particularly within the Big Four. So that's me, but I really love talking to students and to young professionals. And today, I think my presentation is really relevant for all of you as you begin to start or have already started to build your own careers. And I think one of the critical starting points when we think about personal brand is that, you know, it's important to realize that every day when we wake up, when you go about your day, you know, when you turn up for work or university, when you meet your friends and professors, when you meet other people, when you talk on the phone or send an email, or even when you update your Facebook status, each and every day you are sending a message about who you are, your brand, and that brand is you. And the challenge is, I think that many of us don't even understand our own brands or even how to go about building the brand. So today, hopefully I'll be able to start you on that journey, because there's no doubt about it. The world that we live in today has changed. Vietnam has changed and is totally different from the Vietnam that I came to all those many years ago. You know, when I entered the job market, it was really competitive then when I started looking for jobs. But in today's world, it's even tougher for us to stand out in the marketplace. You can no longer expect to do well by just being an employee or just by just being a good student. You really need to start thinking about your own areas of distinction. What makes you different and what makes you unique? And I kind of like to think of your personal brand as your reputation. It's the combination of your personal attributes, your values, your ambitions, your strengths and passions that really help to define and differentiate your unique promise of value from your peers and from everyone else. And so today I want to start you, as I said, I want to start you off on that journey and hopefully provide you with that opportunity to really connect in and reflect with yourself so that you can start to identify what are some of my unique skills, strengths and attributes and talents. This is your chance to really, hopefully in the next half hour or so, tap into your own values and passions to find what your purpose is. Personal branding, and as you will hear me reiterate throughout this evening, it really requires real action and intent on your part. And these principles, I believe, are the foundation of starting to develop your own personal brand and can really help chart your course for future career success and hopefully position you to reach your goals. So why is this even important? You know, why should we even embark on this journey of personal branding? And I think the first thing, an important thing to understand is that, and I think you'll agree with me, is that there's been a huge shift in the way that we communicate with one another. It's not always face-to-face now. Now, when you're applying for a job, you know, usually it's online applications or through an online portal. Or when you're sending your CV and cover letter, it's through emails, or sometimes you might make a telephone call. So it's a lot harder to show your personality now unless you've articulated a clear brand. Secondly, and I think also really importantly, delivering your brand clearly and consistently creates an impression in the minds of those that you interact with and can really open doors to new opportunities. In the corporate world today, people want to work and do business with and hire people that they feel good about, people that they trust. So trust is a huge factor in why personal branding is so important. And then finally, in this changing world that I talked about, having your own personal and distinct brand makes you more memorable and will really help you to stand out from the crowd. So when that HR director from KPMG is shifting through all of those CVs, or when your leaders are talking about and discussing your potential promotion, you want to make sure that your name and your brand comes through loud and clear, so that your name and your CV finds itself, you know, on the top of the pack. Your brand really is your reputation. You know, it's your calling card, it's your legacy, and it's what you're known for and what people and how people experience you. So really, you know, as you think about the session this evening, I really want you to think about how you can bring who you are to what you do and into how you do it. So I think the slide's coming back on now. So I'm just going to move to the next slide. Usually, you know, when people talk about personal branding, they start off by putting a whole bunch of these brand logos on a slide. And maybe I'll just flip it over to you guys now. I mean, when you look at these logos, what do you think of when you see these brands? And maybe just type into the chat pod, you know, in terms of the, I think there's a question chat pod. If you like, you know, when you look at these logos, what is it that comes to your mind? I don't know if I can, hopefully I'll be able to see what you're typing in. Okay, famous brands, international, fancy. You know what they're doing, reputable, recognizable, Dal. Thank you so much. Yeah, they're all great brands with great reputations, but you know, for many of them, it's taken a long time for them to establish that. Thanks, Wang. Like, yes, global, great products, and the reason why they're great is because of the reputation that they've all built. And many of you guys have spotted that. You know, when you use a product from any one of these brands, such as Apple or BMW, you're going to get the money that you've paid for every single time. Their brand is a promise of the value that you will receive. And you know, in many respects, that principle relates to personal branding for people too. But I have to admit to all of you that I've kind of evolved slightly from the concept of personal branding over the last couple of years, and that really is after I heard Sheryl Sandberg speak, who is of course Facebook's COO, and she spoke on this very topic, and she said that, you know, products are packaged up neatly and completely, but people, we're not like that. You know, as humans, we're complex and complicated. So we're not a Colgate toothpaste or like this water bottle that I'm holding up. And given that human experience, you know, because we are complex, you know, we can't be put into a can or defined in a box. And so now when I speak about personal branding, I tend to favor personal voices over personal brands. Although I have to say, both used in the right context can be equally powerful. But brands, you know, can appear to be objects and fixed. A voice tends to be more visceral and fluid. Brands can be passive, whereas voices are active. Brands can leave impressions, but voices create action. And many brands are rooted in history and tradition, whereas voices spark ideation and shape new perspectives. So then the question that you guys might be asking then is, if that's personal branding, how do we even go about creating our own authentic, distinctive, and impactful personal voice? So in coming up with my tips for today, I drew a lot of inspiration from a book that I read a couple of years ago, but you know, that really kind of resonated with me, and I think still kind of rings true for me today. And it's a book by William Arruda, who is often referred to as the personal branding guru. He's written a number of books. He's a motivational speaker, and you can see him talk on this topic on YouTube quite a bit. But in his book, Career Distinction, there are 4 key and core principles that he outlines to really stand out and build your brand. The first is what he calls know yourself to grow yourself. And this means, you know, really understanding who you are. And this process starts right here with you in your heart. And sometimes for many of us, you know, learning about ourselves and that kind of self-reflection process is quite uncomfortable. But, you know, I think as you go through this process, I hope you also find how powerful it can be to really think about what makes you unique and different. What are you good at? What are the things that you like to do? And you know, nothing is an answer, is not an answer that I will accept here if I ask you and you say I'm good at nothing, because all of us, I think, in our own way, has hidden talents and you know, many hidden passions. You just need to understand yourself a bit better. And this self-reflection process really is the first step to starting to build your own personal brand and voice. I want to share with you a really quick story. When I was at university, when I finished year 12, everyone in my family and my friends, they were telling me, Paul, you're really smart. You should do computer science at university. And even my school counselor, I think, told me at one point that I should do something science related. And even though I knew in my heart that it wasn't something I wanted to do, my first year of university, I did it anyway, because everyone else had kind of branded me in a certain type of way. And after my first year, I didn't do really well at all. And I started skipping a lot of my classes, and I wasn't enjoying myself or my major. And I remember sometime at that point looking in the mirror, kind of really depressed and not happy at all with myself. And it was at that point I started to imagine a different career, working with people, one where I could understand others and really help them through their challenges, because I knew that that was something that was definitely more me. And it was at that point that I decided that I was going to intentionally change my career, switch my major to HR, and do something that I was really passionate about. Now I kind of look back to that decision I made, and I feel, really happy and proud that I intentionally followed what was in my heart, even though it went against everything that people told me. And I've been lucky to have had a really amazing career working with some of the best companies in the world, from Qantas Airlines to PwC, Samsung, and now KPMG, all because I intentionally made that decision to understand myself better and to rebrand. The second principle that Arruda talks about, he calls forget the ladder. That traditional metaphor for career advancement is, of course, that ladder, climbing the rungs, adding more skills to our CVs. Well, that doesn't really work in today's business world. You need to manage your career every day with everything you do. And I suggest having a career discussion with yourself. It sounds weird, but ask yourself questions like, what is it that I need to accomplish now or today that's going to help me to advance to where I want to go? How is this meeting that I'm going to be joining next in the next hour going to help me advance my career? How is everything that, how is everything on my to-do list going to help me demonstrate my values? So as you go throughout your career, I want you to think, rather than look at the ladder, look for growth, look for new opportunities, look for meaning and purpose, and be prepared to have your career maybe move not just upwards, but sidewards, maybe downwards, maybe move on, and you might even move off. Constantly thinking about, how do I build my skills and not just my resume? In the past, when you entered work, and particularly in my generation, particularly for large multinational companies, because they are so structured, it's almost as if your career was managed for you. They told you what training to attend, what time you had to come to work, and what time you finish, what your next move is going to be. But that's not the way the world works today, and particularly at work. Today, it's a lot more agile and dynamic, and it's about you being your own boss. In other words, you managing your own career. You can't rely on your boss or others for your career development. It's up to you to take ownership of your career, accountability, and be proactive on what you want to do and what you want to achieve next. The final part of building your brand, and the part that I really love the most, is really to have the mindset that you're going to make an impact and really stand out. Stand for something. This means stick your neck out, and stand for something, even sometimes when everyone else doesn't agree with you. And in everything you do, I think it's about having a conviction, putting your stamp and your mark on every project or work assignment, so that, people really understand, hey, what's his point of view? What is her thought leadership position on this? Amplify your voice so that people recognize who you are and what you stand for. I want to share with you another really personal story related to this principle of standing out. A few years ago, that happened to me. A few years ago, I really wanted to enhance our focus on inclusion at KPMG, and especially for our LGBT employees. I launched a group at KPMG that's called Pride at KPMG. And at that time, I knew that not a lot of other companies in Vietnam certainly were doing anything around this issue or topic. But for me, it was really important. And I remember after the launch, I was at some external event, and a partner from another firm actually came up to me and said that he was friends with, the Minister of Culture. And said to me that they'd heard about KPMG's stance and activities around Pride. And he said to me that if I didn't stop doing it, that I would be jailed and arrested for going against Vietnamese culture, customs, and tradition. As you can imagine, I was taken aback, and after getting over the initial shock of being told that I was going to be put in jail, I had a chat with him and said, look, this is not the time for us to have this conversation, but perhaps we could meet post-event, and I could share with you more about our program and how I don't think it is going against Vietnamese culture, customs, or tradition at all, and if anything, really enhancing it. And I left that event, and of course I didn't hear back from him. But 2 days after that incident, I received this anonymous text on my phone that you can see on the screen here. So someone sent me a message saying, thank you so much, Paul. I can't tell you my name or which office I work in at KPMG, but I want to share with you my feelings that I'm so proud to work for a company like KPMG where I can be my true self. And, so this really imprinted in me this principle of standing out. And, it doesn't matter to me now what any partner says, about what's wrong. As long as I can make even one person feel like this person did, that they belong, I will have done my job, as the leader of the, as one of the HR leaders of the firm. So I'm really passionate about standing up for the values which you believe in your heart to be true and right, and building that inclusive culture where everyone can bring their whole self to work is something I'm really passionate about. So really share your own passions and beliefs. And this is how I believe you can start to really stand out. And finally, I think one of the most important things, about personal branding, and the key that I put in the middle of this, is that you need to be authentic and genuine as you go through this process. You can't fake it. Otherwise, everyone else will see how contrived and forced that it feels. And it's knowing who you really are, and really trying to focus on how you can consistently be the best version of yourself, and ensure that that filters through and is consistent in everything that you do and say. And as I said, the secret in the middle to achieving this is to be the real and authentic you. Because in real life, there's no filter to add to your personal brand like there is on social media. There's a whole range of filters on Facebook and Instagram, but in real life, that's not the way that it works. And you guys have seen, I think, even people when they start to build their brand online and they launch their own website or blog or social media page, it's totally obvious that they're trying to be someone that they're not. And it doesn't take long for other people to figure it out either. So authenticity is the key to you building credibility and trust. So now I'd like to turn it back to all of you. I've spoken a lot now, so I'd like to hear from you guys, because I can see many of you starting to type and chat away here in the chat bot, and it's great to see your questions. So based on what you've heard today, me speaking, or or maybe even drawing on your own personal experiences, because I know some of you have already entered the workplace, if you could type into the chat pod your answer to this question, given that we're working now in this virtual, ways of working, how can we ensure that your brand and your voice continues to stand out, particularly when we're not face-to-face anymore and it's a lot more virtual? How can you make sure that your brand and your voice really shines through? So I'd love to hear from you guys. Please feel free to type in, and let's see what many of you have come up with. Hip, that's fantastic. Yeah, being consistent. Yeah, if you're consistent in person and on all of your social media activities and brands, people will really feel that authenticity and really start to trust that, hey, this is really him or her. Yeah, Dao, I love that. Be authentic as much as you can. Constantly check in with yourself and your values. Is what I'm doing in line with my own personal values? I love that, Dao. Hey, hun, I work in human resources. I love that. Ngang says, making pictures and of yourself and posting them up. So not just words, but actually showing people your real self through your life pictures as well, so that they see that you're not only talking the talk, but also walking the walk as well in your real day-to-day life as well. I love that, guys. Yeah. Some really fantastic comments coming through. Make your own special signature. And LOP, yeah, I mean, I don't think LOP means just the your physical signature that you put at the bottom of your emails, but also putting your signature on stamp in everything that you do in terms of your your projects, your assignments, when you're in a meeting, making sure that people understand who you are through your words, actions, and behaviors. Excellent. These guys, these are really fantastic comments here. And yeah, I mean, keep them coming through. And it sounds like many of you, are really catching the concept and really grasp the concept that I've been talking about this evening. So my final three thoughts for all of you are this. Treat your brand as if it is the greatest asset that you have. Keep your brand in your heart. Never let go of it, even when people tell you otherwise. Secondly, the brand that you want for yourself 5, 10, 15 years down the track needs to start today. Do not procrastinate. Take ownership and accountability from today. And remember that you are in the driver's seat, not anyone else. And finally, you are at the heart and the epicenter of your personal brand. So I want you to be consistent, as many of you have said already, and remember to stay true to who you are. Amplify your voice. And when I say that, it doesn't mean you have to be the loudest in the room, right? When I say amplify your voice, but let your words, actions, and behaviors speak loudly for you. I spoke earlier about how I changed my career after some serious self-reflection. Now, when I look in the mirror, I'm really proud of what I see. I'm a little bit fatter and older now, but I love the brand and the personal voice that I've started to kind of create and cultivate, for myself. So every day, I want all of you to have that intent that you will show up as your best self. Look to create value in everything you do. Let your passion and your authenticity shine through in every interaction that you have. Amplify your voice and be unapologetically yourself. And when you do this, I promise you a myriad of opportunities will open up for you. Thank you guys so much for listening this evening. It's been so great chatting with you on this webinar, and I really look forward to catching up with you either in person, face-to-face, or through my social media accounts in the near future. Huynh, over to you.
Thank you, and Paul. That was such an amazing talk. So, and there was really a lot of very, very interesting points, especially for young people. Actually, for all people at many stages of their career. So I'm sure you all have a lot of questions for Paul, and we have indeed received a lot of questions from all of you. We won't be able to answer all of them, but we'll pick out some of the more interesting ones. I'd also like to invite into this Q&A sessions from RMIT, Dr. John Wash, Senior Program Manager of International Business, and Dr. Burkhard Schreck, Senior Program Manager of Management, Head of the MBA. They will have to provide different perspectives on this topic, as well as to help answer any inquiries you might have about our programs or RMIT. So I think we'll start off with the first question for Paul from Giang Huynh. How to build your personal branding in the world of remote working, especially after the pandemic of COVID-19. Remote working is going to be the new norm. I think this is something that Paul sort of touched on earlier as well, right?
Yeah, and I think many of our colleagues actually on the webinar have said already, I think it's about being consistent, right? So whether you are, whether you are in person or whether you are meeting through a virtual platform, whether you're sending an email, or even when you're calling someone, yes, it's a new way of working, but that doesn't mean that you can't be consistent and true and authentic, and that will shine through no matter what platform you're using. So yeah, great question, Giang, and I hope that that kind of answers that question.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So the next question, also for you, Paul, from Sang Kao. From an HR perspective, does Facebook personal fan page really affect the recruiter decision to hire new staff member? Like a personal Facebook page of someone?
You know what? A few years ago, I probably would have said no. But I mean, to be honest with you, I would be lying if I said that it didn't impact. And I think a really great example is last week. We just if you look at KPMG's Facebook page today, you will have seen that we just announced the KPMG ambassadors for 2021. And so we interviewed, we received, hundreds of applications, and we looked on, as part of the selection process and screening process, we did actually look at the social media pages of our potential ambassadors. And Hong Ngop from RMIT, was the selected ambassador, this year for RMIT Vietnam. And one thing that really impressed me when you look at Ngop's Facebook page is she's dedicated a lot of it, to talking about how passionate she is about, not just building her own career, but also joining in a lot of the events, not just with RMIT, but actually expanding her network and, and building her network, beyond just even her own university. So, I think for me, KPMG, I think it's something that is, it's something that we factor in is, is the person who you're projecting online the same one that I'm meeting face to face during the interview. I want to make sure that the values that you are, telling me in person is the same one that you're espousing online through your social media. And if those values align, and if they're aligned with KPMG, chances are you'll be really successful.
Very interesting. Yeah, actually, I've seen that many recently. There's a lot of people, a lot of industry that for them social profile on social media is become more and more important as well. Not just for on Facebook, but also on other platforms. I mean, LinkedIn is an obvious platform, but for others as well. For example, like creative industries, like profile on websites like YouTube or Instagram might be very important as well. Right.
Great.
Okay, so the next question from Huynh. Do I get a lot of chances to learn from industry speakers like Paul today in the programs at RMIT? I think, John, you might be able to answer this question.
Thank you. That's a lovely question. Yes, we do our best to invite industry speakers as often as possible into our class. We can, where possible, take people on visits to business facilities outside, bearing in mind that it's a bit difficult to do that these days. And we also try to involve industry people as judges of our assignments, so that you know that when you do your assignments, they are actually all kind of authentic work-based assignments. Perhaps Burkhard, you'd have something to say.
I think you said it all. I'm also obviously teaching in the MBA program, and there is not one course that I taught where we did not have a collaboration with an industry partner. Many of our assignments are actually not for me or for our for the university, but they are for the industry partner, and oftentimes they make a difference for the partner. So you actually work on an assignment in the MBA program that may be actually discussed by the board of a company or by the marketing management of a company. So that's what we call authenticity. So real world assignment rather than just hypothetical, multiple choice questions or something like that. Now, many of our students make already an impact through their assignments while they're studying.
Okay, thank you, Burkhard. Actually, the next question, I think, is something you might be able to answer as well. So a question from Kang Du. I'd like to learn more about personal branding. Where would I be able to do that? I think, Burkhard, I think you can answer this one.
Yeah, in fact, with our MBA program, we try to be very agile and adapted to the needs of the employers, and we have always conversations with people like Paul to understand what you need from our graduates. And one of the and that resulted in that we actually start two minor programs in the MBA. One is about technology management, and the other one is about leadership, because we hear this. These are two big topics from kind of the changing environment of needs in the workplace. And so in the leadership minor for the MBA program, we have a course indeed that's called personal branding and authentic leadership. And I think Paul eloquently already demonstrated how important this is, that we get this right, to build your own brand, especially in a more anonymous, online world. And just to give a little sense of what this really is about, I think we have two parts in this course. The first part is really about what Paul talked about: build your own brand, know yourself, to grow yourself, right? Sort of like we have self-reflections in this course. We try to, we give you space and tools to find your own identity. So what should your brand be? And so the first part of this course is really about finding this your own brand and building it. How do we build this? And the second part is about walk the talk, right? Sort of like, okay, you have your own brand. Now we have to act consistently with that. So what kind of leadership style would actually, do you have to kind of continue, I guess, or which leadership style matches to your brand in some ways, right? Obviously, this is something naturally, but we would try to carve it out in this course. So I think we do kind of help you to get, find your own brand, to build it, to and then, but however, translate that brand into actions, right? Like Paul said, if you buy a Mercedes car and it has there's certain expectations that are associated with that brand, Mercedes. The same for personal branding, and we try to kind of do this in this personal branding and authentic leadership course.
All right, thank you, Bakhat. Okay, so the next question is for Paul from Linh Bùi. From HR perspective, before setting up the face-to-face interview, how can we show our personal branding in a CV and stand out in a huge pool of profiles?
Yeah, great question, Lynn. I think there are, a couple of things that you can do is obviously, like I receive hundreds and thousands of CVs throughout the year. So I think one of the ways to make your CV and your application really stand out is, I think a cover letter is key. So I think a lot of people forget this part, but it's such a critical part, I think, of really, allowing you to introduce yourself, via another way than just the standard CV format. I'm also one who prefers a much more simple a CV that is, punchy and succinct, rather than one that is 3 to 5 pages long. And I think you can say a lot about yourself even in just one page. So think about, as you're even thinking about the format of your CV, right? Think about what are the key things that you want to capture about yourself in just this one page. So think of it as your own strategy on a page about yourself, for example. And then I think the other thing is you want to show that you're really kind of, well suited to the role, but also that you're a really well-rounded individual. So, one of the things that, I think people think about, forget, is that it's not just about academic. It's not just about your academic results, but it's also about highlighting what else about you really makes you different from everyone else. So if you are, if maybe you're the captain of the football club, at RMIT, or even if you, sold bread at your auntie's, bakery on the weekend. Put that on your CV and application, because that tells us that, you have great, potentially really good customer service skills. You've helped to resolve conflict, and you're able to juggle, many different kind of tasks at once, whether it be school, work, friends, social life, everything. You're able to do that really successfully. So that's what I think I would think about, Lynn, as you thinking about how to make your application kind of stand out.
Okay, very, very nice, and Paul. Okay, so the next question for you and Paul from Inmac. How do we recognize the personal brand of an introvert person when they don't want to show off or open up for a connection?
Yeah, I love that. Because actually, a lot of people when they meet me, they actually think I'm actually more extrovert. But actually, if you do the MBTI, I'm actually more on the introvert side. And I think, Ying, I think the thing to think about, and maybe it's not just for Ying, but actually for everyone, introverts and extroverts, is for the introverts to realize, as I said before during the presentation, it's not about amplifying your voice, is not about being loud and bold, right? And I found, one of the things that we do during the the graduate recruitment process, for example, one of the rounds is the group assessment. And one thing that I say to the recruiters at KPMG is that don't just look for the people who are bold and confident, right? Also look for the ones who maybe are busy doing their work, don't speak a lot, but the moment they do, you know exactly the point that they're trying to get across. And even just the one sentence that they say brings the whole group together again. on track, on point, and in the right direction, right? So you don't have to say a lot, right? And you don't have to say it loudly, right? But introverts usually, when they speak, it's because they've given it a lot of thought already and introspection, and they wait for their turn. And when they speak, usually, you know, their words kind of speak for themselves. So continue to focus on that. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. And for the extroverts in the room, I would say, give your introvert colleagues, you know, the chance to shine as well. Sometimes it's important to get yourself off the stage, right? And let someone else shine. So don't be afraid to, you know, tap into your introvert colleagues and say, hey, Ying, you know, can I hear from you?
Okay, that's some amazing advice. And I think that's something that all of us could give a think about. Definitely something because we actually get these questions a lot. Like even if I'm an introverted person, then how can I show to other people my values and worth? You know, so very, very good advice. And thank you for that. So the next question, I think from Huynh also. Is it still worth getting a master degree in the current climate? I think maybe Burkhard and John, you could give some thought, some answer to this. Starting with John, I think.
Thank you. Yes, we obviously believe that a master's degree is the next step towards self-development. In a world of globalization of information and globalization of access to information and commentary, it's easy for people to think that they know the answer to questions when they don't really know the answer to the questions, and they may not really understand the questions that should be asked. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we like to have our postgraduate degrees as offering a combination of networking opportunities, genuine information, genuine teaching, and the opportunity for you, the students, to reflect upon your lives and upon your future, and to think about how you can maximize what you want to achieve with the resources that are available to you. It's a good idea to choose carefully exactly which degree you want to do, whether you want to do here in Vietnam or at RMIT overseas or at another university. Take advice from people who have taken that degree, speak to the various people involved. If you come to us and ask us for advice and we think you'd be better off at another university, we have no problem in telling you that. Okay, so listen to what people have to say and think to yourself, is this something that I want to do now? Maybe I want to do it later, or maybe it's something that I'll come back to in a few years when my life has changed. So yes, by all means, search out the opportunities and think to yourself, is this the one that I want to take up right now?
Thank you, John. What about you, Burkhard?
Yeah, that's a great question, obviously, but the idea is that a master's degree is probably more needed than ever, because if you think about the kind of two directions or two takeaways from a master's degree, the first is what we here at RMIT offer is sort of like cutting edge tools to kind of respond to the very new realities of economic and social life, right? So what I probably have learned 10 years ago or even 5 may be outdated by now. So the increased velocity, the speed of change requires constant rethinking, and that's what we do for a living in a university. We develop cutting edge tools. So coming back to the classroom and sort of like understand, getting to know these tools is very important. At the same time, actually, it's exactly the opposite. So rethinking the very basic principles that apply to sort of like in this messy world, so to speak, with increased uncertainty, we sometimes have to step back and think about the very basic principles. Elon Musk, the co-founder of Tesla, for example, he always says we have to think in first principles. So it's like not sort of complicated things, but sort of like try to find out the original drivers of that. And I think a master's degree will provide you with the sort of ability to step back and sort of like look at the bigger picture, not at the small thing just ahead of you. So two things to why I think it makes sense to come, to make a master's, and obviously with John, I would agree that, not every master's degree is the same. The first one is, cutting or even bleeding edge tools to solve current problems. And the second is to sit back and to look at the bigger picture and to reason or solve problems from first principles.
Thank you, Bhagat. Okay, so those are insights from our lectures. So the next question is for anh Paul. Thank you from anh Ngô. So thank you so much for sharing, Paul. I have one question. If your personal branding is not on the right intended way, how do you correct that and make the branding works? Thank you.
And I love this question, actually. Sometimes it's inevitable that you get off brand. And so how do you get your brand back on track, I think is such a great question. And I think, for me, we talk about authenticity a lot today, but it's also about taking ownership, right, and accountability. And it's okay to say, right, that, you made a mistake. I share with you, I recently interviewed a candidate who, was really great on paper, and then I could tell from his academic transcripts that during his second year, his grades all of a sudden really dropped. And I remember asking him about it, and I said, what happened here? And he said to me, Paul, I'm going to be really honest with you. I lost my way. I fell in with the wrong crowd, and I lost all my passion for studying, and that's evident in my results. But then what I did was, I really had to kind of check in with myself, really gather my thoughts, regroup, reprioritize. And so you can see in my final year, I was able to get myself back on track. It could have been a lot better, but I'm still proud that I was able to get back on track. So I hired him because he really took ownership, I think, and accountability. And you know what? I think, it's okay to say when that you've fallen off track sometimes. So for me, the important thing is that you really own it, and really be honest. Great question.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that was very interesting to hear as well. Like, even if you made a mistake, then if you just come up and own it, then you can build up your own brand that way. So thank you, Paul. Thank you everyone who has given us such interesting questions. Sadly, that we have limited time for this session, and that was the last question for our session today. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, John and Bhagat, for joining us today. On behalf of RMIT as well, I'd like to thank Paul for giving his time this evening to share his knowledge and taking part in this event with us. So I hope all of you have found this session really helpful and informative for yourself. We have recorded this session, and this will be sent to all of you by email later on as well. So if you'd like to find out more about RMIT, you can get in touch with us on our Facebook and our hotlines, as you can see in the comments. So thank you, Paul, thank you, John, and thank you, Bhagat. And I hope the rest of you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay
All right.
safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Stay safe, yes.